Hi everyone, it's Stephanie back with another spinning video. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. It's not really a tutorial. Instead, I thought I would answer a couple of questions that I've been getting in my YouTube comments, and I thought I would do so while spinning some of these bats that I have made during different tutorials, except for this one. This one I made on my own. This one is Shetland. Okay, I bought some wonderful, wonderful Shetland fiber, or fleece, actually. It's a Shetland fleece, and it is so unbelievably soft, you all. And I've been spinning this Shetland on my spindle, but I thought I would try to put it into a bat and spin it on my wheel and see how that turns out. I've also got this bat, and I can't remember if I filmed this one or not, but this is pretty much just merino, and then some brown alpaca is through here. And I think there's some cashmere sandwiched in here also. Maybe some angora too, I don't remember. And then this one is so soft. It is all alpaca. It is white and black alpaca. And that's what it looks like. And what I want to do, oh, and actually it looks like there's some cashmere in here also. I think this is the bat that I spun when I was teaching you all to sandwich shorter staple length fibers in between longer staple length fibers if you were using a drum carder. I think that's what this one was for. So what I've been wanting to do is to take these bats that I made for purposes of videos, and I'd like to combine them into just a nice, big, lofty yarn. Now, I don't know if it's going to work because I have so many different fibers. The Shetland is the one that I'm most unsure about, simply because this particular blend of Shetland, while I'm spinning it on my spindle, it wants to spin really thin. So I'm not sure how I will get a nice thick yarn out of it, but who knows, maybe I'll do this one and spin it just as if it's a big roll-ag. But what I'm going to do is just make a nice thick lofty yarn combining these in various places just as the spirit moves me, and we'll see what happens. So the other day I'm going to divide this out into some nice chunks, nice spinnable chunks. And as I get to the end of the bat, I'm not going to pull this loose. Instead, I'm going to just turn it around and then continue tearing on down this way, okay? And then I get to the end of the bat. Again, I do not tear it loose. Instead, I come over here, come over a little bit, and pull this way. So what we're getting is one nice long length of fiber to spin. And I'm not going to spin like all of this bat in one sitting and then add the next one and then move on to the Shetland. Instead, I'll spin a little bit of this one, maybe add some Shetland, then maybe add some of the other, and then go back. We'll just see how it goes. So because I can't help but teach as I'm spinning, I have to note that I am on my Spinolution Echo, which I love. I think that if I could only have one wheel, it would be my Echo, because I can do everything from fine spinning to thick spinning to spinning lock yarns. It does just pretty much everything. But I have a fresh bobbin on here, see? And this is great about the Echo too. Look, it just clamps, it just pops right on here with magnets. So easy. That's another thing I love about Spinolutions, just the ease of use. And no, I'm not a dealer or anything. I'm just saying this as someone who loves the wheel. And then I have this on my largest whorl back here because I've already decided I want a nice, thick, lofty yarn. And I might ply it later on. Who knows? I don't know how this is going to turn out. I just thought you all might be interested in coming along for the ride with me. I'm going to scoot back from the orifice a little bit because I was awfully close here. And as always, I will spin clockwise. So I'm just going to put a little bit of yarn through my leader here. I'm going to draft a little bit but not a whole lot. And it's hard for me because I'm used to spinning very thin yarns. And you can see, look what I did. I spun a really thin section there. That's just what my hands do sort of automatically. But I'm going to try not to draft out so much. And I'm going to try and let this just kind of go as it wants to go. And if I have thicker sections, then I have thicker sections. If I have some skinniness in here, that's okay. That might mean that maybe I apply it later on. Let me take a look. So here's what I've got so far. I always check my yarn after I've been spinning for a bit. It's just a habit. I check to see if I'm putting enough twist in. Here's what it's looking like so far. It's pretty. It's not quite as thick as I wanted it, so I'm going to draft even less, and I'm going to let it just sort of spin. There we go. That's more the diameter that I'm wanting. This one needs to be pulled back just a little bit. That's it. I want a really, really thick yarn, which means that I'm barely drafting this at all. Okay, so on to the question. I had a lot of great comments in the video that on the video that I just released, which was about warping your loom. A lot of you were so nice as to compliment me on my teaching method, and I have to say you all just made my day by that. I do sometimes teach at our local college. When I do teach, I teach creative writing. I'm only an adjunct there, and what that means is they call me if they have a need for someone to teach the class. Okay, I'm stopping here and I'm pulling off because I'm feeling like I want to add actually some of the Shetland. So I'm going to, instead of spinning from the roll lag like I thought I was going to, I'm just going to pull off a big length like this, and I'm going to attach it. I never spin yarns that are this thick, so it's a completely different thing for me. So here we go with some brown coming through, and I'm not sure why, and I promise I will get back to answering the questions. Let me stop for a little bit and then I'll start. What I want to do here is I feel like maybe adding in something with this yarn. So look, I have two. I have the Shetland and I have this merino alpaca. I'm letting the merino alpaca wrap around this Shetland. I don't know why, I've never done this before. And now I'm going to switch and let some of the Shetland, as I draft a little bit, come around the merino. See, you can just play like this with your yarn. It really is okay. I've let the twist get back a little bit too far in this merino yarn, so I'm going to draft it a little bit, just a little, because remember I want a thick yarn. And then I'm going to let it go on here and let some of this draft in here. I'm going to pull out just a little bit now, and now I'm just going to let this little bit be kind of a bobble, if that makes any sense. Okay, I'm now moving to the all alpaca blend, the white and black alpaca, and I'm trying to tell you guys what I'm doing as I'm doing it, but sometimes I just get caught up in either answering the question or just running my mouth and talking that I forget to tell you. But I am going to now let this one, and I'm not having enough pickup here. It's not going onto my bobbin as fast as I want it to, so it's getting too much twist, which I don't want in this yarn. I do not want a lot of twist. There we go. Now I did a little too much there. Okay. Now I've made it a little too hard to treadle, but the yarn is certainly going on there looking fabulous. And that's what matters, right? But I am going to have to loosen it up a little. Okay, so somebody asked me Well, let me finish talking about a teachers first. I come from a long line of teachers. My mom and my aunts were all teachers for decades. They all taught high school though, which I have never had the stomach to do. If you all have been following my experiments with cashmere, this part right here, the brown, if you can see it, right here, this is cashmere in that bag of cashmere that I got that is lumpy. And I actually was at the Woolery again, and I bought another bag of white cashmere, and it does not seem to be as lumpy. So hopefully, when I find time to start spinning it, of course I'll share that with you all, but hopefully I will have a better experience with that and be able to just spin some really nice thin cashmere. So anyway, I come from a long line of teachers, and I love teaching. I really, when I'm able to teach, especially at the college level, because the classes I teach creative writing, people don't take them unless they are interested in them. So it's teaching something creative, which is kind of what I'm doing here, which is what I love doing. But the only thing I don't like about it is I don't like grading. So here through YouTube, I get to have the fun of teaching and the joy of watching people discover something new that I love doing. And, but I don't have to judge what they're doing or criticize it or grade it. I really don't enjoy doing that. So that's why I like to teach here. But anyway, the question that I got was, how did I fall down this fiber hole? And it's kind of a long story, but I'm already at over 10 minutes here on this video, and I'm going to try to keep it short. Looks like it's time to add a little bit more of the Shetland, and there is no rhyme or reason as to why I'm adding Shetland now. It's a gut feel. It's just something in me is saying add some Shetland. So I'm listening to that. And this Shetland, you all, this fleece that I got, it is so nice. I had to process it, had to pick out the vegetable matter and everything, but I am loving this fleece. And I'm loving how it is spinning up nice and thick here. Even though Shetland is wonderful for spinning a very nice, fine, thin yarn. So anyway, back to the question, which was, how did I end up falling down the fiber hole? Well, when my husband and I had been married several years, when we decided that we wanted to start a family, but we weren't able to at first. In fact, we were told that we would never have biological children. So we decided that we would adopt. And so we filled out the paperwork and did all of that stuff. And then, surprise, before we were matched with a child, we found out I was pregnant. And this was 16 years ago now, because our biological son, he just turned 16 at the beginning of this month, which I cannot believe. So we were thrilled that I was pregnant, because it was something that, I never thought I'd get to experience. And we were thrilled about it. But shortly into my pregnancy, I started getting really, really sick. And when I was 6 months pregnant, I went into preterm labor. I also started having fevers and being in and out of consciousness. I couldn't eat. I was losing weight instead of gaining weight. I think at the most that I weighed when I was pregnant, maybe I got up to 115, something like that. And then I just started losing more and more and more. So eventually I was hospitalized, and I was in there for about 2 weeks while they were trying to stop the labor. They weren't able to, and my son was delivered via an emergency C-section. Okay, so now I'm getting back to fiber talk real quick. Now I'm getting the feeling to put in some more Shetland So I am going to listen to that and do that, and I'm just going to pull this off, and I'm going to add some more Shetland. So my son was delivered. He was 2 pounds, 14 ounces. I mean, he fit in the palm of my husband's hand. He was so tiny, you all. But I was very, very sick. And the doctors had thought that the fevers and everything, the weight loss would all stop once they delivered my son, because they thought it was something about pregnancy making my body go haywire. Well, turns out that I was actually in multi-system organ failure. The doctors told my husband, my mom, my family, everybody to prepare for my death because I had a bowel perforation, which we months later found out was due to Crohn's disease. It was undiagnosed at the time, and so my body just went nuts pretty much when I got pregnant, and my Crohn's disease went into a massive flare, and that's why the preterm labor, that's why I was so sick. When I finally got out of the hospital after I had been there for close to 2 months, I weighed either 82 or 87 pounds. I cannot remember which one that was. A little bit of vegetable matter here. But anyway, I was crazy skinny. Not at all the weight you want to be ever at any point in your adult life. So, a very long story short, I eventually recovered. It took a long, long time to recover. Okay, now I'm feeling like I need some more of this white and black alpaca. So I'm just going to add that. You see, it's a very intuitive process, the way that I do this. There's no set way to do it. And so eventually I got better. Our son was growing. He was fine. In fact, he skipped 2 grades. He should be a sophomore right now, but he is actually going to be graduating from high school in May and starting college in August at the age of 16. So he was totally fine, which thank God. I mean, it really, there were a series of things that were just miraculous that happened throughout the entire time. So which I can share with you all later if you're interested, but if you're not, I don't want to bore you with it right now. So anyway, we eventually decided that we wanted more children, and since we had thought about adopting before, well, we just decided to go ahead and continue on that path, and we decided that after the infertility, after all of the difficulties with my pregnancy, that domestic adoption, I mean, frankly, we were just afraid that we would be matched with a child and then the child would be taken away. And so we were not prepared for that mentally or emotionally, because it was a very traumatic time. We were thrilled to have our son, but it had been such a traumatic birth. The years of infertility, if you've experienced infertility, you know that that in itself is such a loss. And to go through it, you know, month after month after month for 6 or 7 years like we did, it's heartbreaking. So eventually we decided that we were going to adopt from China. And because I'm a crazy researcher, I researched everything I could. And I also researched what the adoption trip would be like, because if you adopt from China, you have to fly over to China and you end up staying there for about 2 weeks. So I found out that the plane ride was going to be very, very long. And I decided that I wanted something to do on the plane ride. So I thought knitting would be a great thing to do. So I taught myself to knit, because the flight, just the flight from the United States to China, is a good 15 hours. And that's not including all the flights, the in-country flights, both here and the US. Ultimately, it takes a good 24 to 36 hours to get to China. And I thought that knitting would be a great way to spend my time. So I started knitting, and then of course I moved from using the beginning yarns that I could find really anywhere, Walmart, Kmart, anywhere, Joann Fabrics, anywhere that I could find yarn, I would start buying it, of course. and I was knitting all of the time and loving it. So that went on for several years, and then a very good friend of mine, this years and years and years passed. I mean, probably 10 years or more passed, and I would go to the yarn festivals and, you know, all of the fun things that we as fiberholics can do, but I would just stick with the yarn. Well, one of my friends, her daughter, somehow, and I am not sure how, but she started researching. She knew how to crochet, but she then decided that she wanted to learn how to spin her own yarn. So it had never even crossed my mind to spin my own yarn. And art yarn, good grief, I had never even heard of it, much less thought that it was something that I could do. So I would say this was a good maybe 6 years ago at this point, maybe a little bit longer, I'm not positive. Could have been, I don't know, somewhere around 6 years ago. So she got a spinning wheel, so I just jumped onto YouTube, and now I'm feeling like it's time not to go back to the Shetland, but to go to the merino and brown alpaca. And so after she started spinning, I started researching, because like I said when I was talking about the adoptions, I research everything, you all. I'm one of those people who isn't happy unless I'm learning something new. So I started looking into spinning, and then on one day I found a Louette S10 on eBay for sale, and so I bid on it. It was a great price, and I ended up getting my first wheel, which I've since given to my niece, who wants to learn how to spin, because we have to pass this along, right? So I got my Louette, and I started spinning, and honestly, I have not looked back. I still am knitting. In fact, I'm in the midst of knitting a sweater and a shawl right now, and a hat, but my main love would probably be spinning. That's why the majority of my videos are around spinning. I don't know what it is, but there's something about the tactile way that the fiber goes through your hands, and seeing the yarn itself as an end product is just something, a piece of art in and of itself. There's something about it that I just love. I'm also really loving weaving, which is why I'm glad that you all are interested in those videos, because I'm starting that up again. And now I also do felting as well. So when I say I fell down the rabbit hole, I really, really fell down the rabbit hole. I've changed, the room I'm in right now is my craft room, but it used to be our dining room. And it's completely open. It's one of the first rooms you see in our house when you walk in. So you walk in and you see, you know, all of my yarns over here that I'm dyeing, or that I dyed. You'll see my basket of fluff and my wheels and everything. I found, I guess, the artistic medium that I was meant to find. It's so soothing to me. I deal with a lot of anxiety and depression, and there's something about the tactile nature of spinning or of any fiber crafts that really calms my mind. It's almost like an act of prayer or meditation or worship for me sometimes. And so that is a very long story of how I started in the fiber world. So how about you all? I hope you found this interesting. I'd love to hear how all of you got started in the fiber world. I'm so thankful for the internet. I grew up, and my parents, my dad is from Southern Kentucky and my mom's from Eastern Kentucky. And so my dad, after his parents, my grandparents passed away, he inherited a lot of their stuff, and we always had this very, very old spinning wheel in our basement. And, I was always intrigued by it, but it was never something that I thought that I could learn to do. Unfortunately, I don't have that wheel now. What I wouldn't give to have that wheel. I think it was probably from the 1800s, and it just makes me sick that I don't have it. But it was my grandmother's wheel on my dad's side. And so I never really knew her. She passed away when I was about 2. Now I'm feeling it's time for some more Shetland. And not that much, I'm only pulling off a little bit. So the fiber arts and really any of these traditionally female crafts, they make me feel more connected to my heritage and to my people. Appalachia, Kentucky, it's full of quilters and spinners and fiber artists. And it helps me feel connected with my roots and where I came from. So that's a very long answer to the question, but I hope it was interesting. And really, I would love to hear all about your all's stories. How did you guys get interested in fiber? What drew you to it? And also, why do you keep at it? Why do you fill your home up with yarn or fiber or whatever it is that you collect and fill your home up with? Time to switch again. This time it is the merino and brown alpaca. Why do you do it? Why do you keep doing it? So until next time, please in the comments put how you entered the world of fiber. What fiber art do you enjoy the best? And what do you collect? What keeps you at it? What keeps you going? Even when the rest of your family or friends, they think you're a bit loony for collecting all of this stuff. Anyway, you all, I love your comments. Keep them coming. Ask me any questions that you'd want to. I'm pretty much an open book. So until next time, happy spinning. I'm Stephanie Nipper, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.